What's up, everybody? Welcome to a connectingdirectors.com exclusive. I'm excited to have this conversation today because this has been a big conversation online around Cincinnati College of Mortuary Science and what is happening. And so I've got the two gentlemen that know, and I'm not going to introduce them. They are going to introduce themselves because they will do a much better job than I will. So, gentlemen, take it away. We're going to just answer all the questions.
Good afternoon, Ryan. Mark Ivy, the president of the Cincinnati College of Mortuary Science. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, appreciate this, Ryan. Paul Masters, board member of CCMS, also interim president of CCMS. And well, we both also have some years here as students, but we won't bore you with that.
That's
Yeah.
that's great.
Right?
Like you built the school. You were the
Yeah. Yeah.
founding and inaugural club. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think you were.
Yeah.
There's a little truth to some of that we'll
Yeah.
get to in a
Yeah.
second, but
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
keep on going.
Keep going.
All
Yeah.
right. Look, we've compiled questions that were asked on Facebook when we posted the news release that came out last week from CCMS. And basically the news is that CCMS is going to now be housed at Xavier University. I think that's the long and short of it, but I'll let you guys explain the release and then we'll get into questions. So give us the scenario of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. I think, and again, appreciate the opportunity to come on and speak and clarify some things. The first thing I wanted to get to is, was Cincinnati sold? The answer is no. Cincinnati College of Mortuary Science was not sold. But as you mentioned, the release, right? What we did sell was the land, building, property. 7.2 million was what it went for. And it's with the St. Xavier High School across the street. And it was sort of that convergence of things that sort of led to this, right? Um, Vision plan, but also just a synergy and an opportunity more than anything else.
It's great. I mean, so I guess that leads into the question of like what happens to the current campus, the ECC that's new, and the land.
Yeah, right. Well, as mentioned, land is land, and the building's a building, and the ECC is part of that building. But more than that, the ECC was a mission, and that mission was to teach cremation in person, right? So we were blessed over the last 10 years since its inception to see that to fruition, to make it happen during a very challenging time, worldwide pandemic and everything, right? And as we come out of that, though, that ECC as the land and building, like I said, was just sold. The mission to teach cremation in person will continue. We'll be doing that through some affiliate funeral homes and some other locations, as the case may be.
Okay, you said it sold for 7.2 million. What happens with those proceeds?
So, yeah, let's talk about the money where it goes first because um, I will give you a little behind the scenes look because as speaking for the board, some of the comments were, boy, I bet a lot of people are lining their pockets because of this whopping sale. So first of all, if anybody ever wanted to be on the board at CCMS, please submit an application. You're more than welcome. I'll give you the pay right now. It's zero. Matter of fact, we have members on the board that travel to our meetings when we have it in person. They pay for their own travel. There's nothing provided. Nobody gets any money out of this. A few things because I want to speak highly of our board for a second. When we came in when I was interim president, the board stepped up because we were trying to raise some money to try to really make sure the school's in a good position. We had a lot of things going on at a very crucial time. The members of the board actually, besides not getting paid, they were the first ones to donate to the school. So that's kind of the role of the board. We help fundraising. We try to find money to empower the school to keep that institution going. As a last side note, as interim president, you probably think that's a pretty big paying job as well. That also paid a whopping $0 for my time here, 6 months. So saying all that, what happens to 7.2? We pay off debt because of that brand new ECC building. And then the rest goes to the school. I mean, we're the part of the board we've been trying to do is build longevity. and that means making sure we have money to go into the future.
I mean,
Absolutely.
paying off debt is good. So
Yes.
that's good. That's good. I mean, I think everybody will be glad to know that you're not buying a jet out of this deal. So that's fantastic. So, I mean, I guess the question, a follow up to that would be like, why this move now? And I want to kind of a part two of that question would be, this is being framed as a very positive thing. And so why is it positive to be back at Xavier?
Yeah, no, Ryan, I'm happy to answer that, right? I mean, like I said, it's some opportunities that came up. And as we were getting with the board and since I became president in July, there's been that vision of not just this year, but where are we in 5, 7, 10, 15, another 140 years, right? And I was blessed to have some conversation with the folks across the street. And again, it was the convergence of three things between a high school, a mortuary college, and a university where we've had some history. And it just seemed like the right time. You know what they're embarking on, and some of the announcements you've seen out there that the high schools put out in the media is they're embarking on a major rebuild of their campus, and their desire to expand. Well, we were in their expansion zone, so to speak, right? So they approached. I was obliged to speak, and in that capacity, we were blessed to get the opportunity to do what we're doing now and go home to Xavier. So why now? It's more about taking advantage of an opportunity, if you will. And I don't know if you want to expand on that at all, Paul, but
Yeah, you made a funny comment at the beginning, when we started saying, "Hey, also you guys helped lay the first bricks." Mark and I have a little history because, he went to the past campus at Xavier. I was the first class in this new building back in '95. So, I didn't lay any bricks, but we were here when it started. But one of the things I mentioned it because our board, we have been looking at where are we going to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? How do we make sure that this institution goes on? And part of it, this building, when it was built, my class, when we came here, we had 110 students in our class. It was built for 100 students in a class in a building. We don't have that now. That's not where education is. We have classes
yeah,
in the 20s,
yeah,
and we don't need this big building. So, as much as we thought, well, maybe this will happen in 5, 10 years, I mean, literally the cards aligned when Mark stepped in as president, and they were like, "We have an offer."
So I mean, what's some of the benefit then of being back at Xavier? Like what are some of the strategies and synergies there that make this great for incoming students?
Ryan, I'm glad you asked because I will share with you my experience, and I think most of us that had experiences on that campus, it was quite a robust experience. In other words, we're good at what we do. We're masters at providing that mortuary education, right? But there's some contingent benefits that just happen when you're on a larger university campus in a complete environment dedicated to education. I mean, we got to take advantage of things on the college campus that were benefits to students and some things like that. The community around, the housing options that are around a college campus. There's just the synergies of just being in an educational environment that lend itself to expanded opportunities, right? I mean, we were blessed to be here for 30 years, existing on our own, doing what we're doing, but as we migrate online, as Paul was saying, and as the needed seated students become a little bit less in our online shifts, we're going in that direction. But the benefit is the assimilation of just environment and synergies that come along with an educational environment in a larger environment.
It's great. All right. I'm gonna ask the big humdinger of the question that's been floated, like the elephant in the room. So, I
Yeah.
mean, is the college going bankrupt? Like, is this a financial move? I've seen that all over the comments on Facebook that this was just like, yeah, there's no money left. Something happened. What happened? And this is just a financial play.
Yeah, so as we sit, CCMS we could tag along for years to come as we sit where we are. We're growing into an online program, which I'll let Mark talk about. And yeah, it would be okay. The problem is that looking down the road, again, if you asked me a year ago, I would have said, hey, maybe we get there in 5, 7, 10 years.
Mm.
It was an alignment. But man, the timing is perfect. As financially sound as we are right now, the opportunity to be in even a better position, better footstep, I mean, that's what we have to do, and you gotta take those opportunities when they're in front of you. And the truth is higher education right now, it is different. I know we don't talk about COVID much anymore, but the truth is that did something very different to education, you know? It is becoming more online, so we have to build a bigger online robust program. We don't need this building to do that. We need to be part of a bigger campus to do that. And so I just think it kind of happened. And yeah, we're okay, but man, I'd rather be great. And that's about what we're to walk
Mhm.
into is to be great. And I want to go back to the education side.
Yeah.
Imagine these kids now. I'm jealous. I'm jealous. I would have loved to have been at Xavier, knowing what's going on. Imagine getting a bachelor's of mortuary science from Cincinnati College of Mortuary Science and then getting a minor like from Xavier University in business, economics, marketing, theology. I mean, the level of what you will be able to take into the workplace will be unbelievable.
Yeah, Ryan, I just want to jump in here and say I love the faith that my board has in me in that capacity. But ultimately, right, in those advanced degrees, that's all out there. But it's about that fiscal responsibility, right? As we looked at this, and that's what we're doing. When you go back to Xavier, to your point of finances, as we look at where education is and it's going online, there's expenses to being online. It's a different world and it's a different modality, but those expenses and being fiscally responsible to each of those programs is a major opportunity that we have here.
So, I mean, you mentioned earlier the decrease in class size. So from Paul, I think you said 110 when you were in school to 22 now. Is that decrease in class size, like, was there a massive increase in tuition that affected that because of building the ECC?
No, no. As a matter of fact, Ryan, I'll kind of split those apart for you, right? So let's take that enrollment situation that you mentioned there. That enrollment situation is a growing concern within higher education. There's less people entering secondary education, let alone the trades, right? So not to jump on that horse, but we are not separate from that in that capacity, right? So we are challenged with that. Um, it has nothing to do with tuition raise. As a matter of fact, over the last 10 years, we raised tuitions 8 times. We didn't raise it between 19 and 22. Obviously, the COVID thing played into that, right? But in any capacities, like all higher education, we are challenged with you can't enroll folks fast enough and increase tuition fast enough to keep up with expensing generally. So we've raised tuition, like I said, 8 times out of the last 10 years, but never more than 3%, which is quite in line, if not a little under, some of the institutions secondary. So, I mean, to say that those are connected, isn't true.
Okay. I'm running down through these questions, these Facebook questions.
Yeah.
So
No, do it. We want to.
I'm gonna ask this one. I think you already answered it, but just clarification for the critics. This is all because of financial mismanagement by past authorities that be. Yes or no?
No, it's bigger than that. A lot of this is, you look at where the school was years ago. There was a belief that, hey, let's put in this cremation center and we can grow enrollment and then everything will be fine. Long story short, the cremation program it's great. It's getting there, but it hasn't really done anything to enrollment. Matter of fact, the community as a whole, they are they're not excited about it to in a short version of this story. And so you have to adapt and move. You have to pivot, and that's what we're doing. But I won't sit here and say there's been financial mismanagement. It's just very different. And I don't want to be the person that says COVID changed it all, but it is just a really different. I mean, you don't have to go far. I mean, obviously on the board, we look at other colleges and institutions. You can look at Wittenberg in Ohio. that actually just announced that, they are on academic probation because their finances have dropped too low because of enrollment. And then right across the river from us, Northern Kentucky University, they're shutting down part of their dorms because their enrollment has dropped. And so this isn't us in a barrel like, oh, it's only us. This is every institution. However, it affects us more because of the small numbers we have. Every student that says, I'm just not going to go to mortuary school this year, that's a big swing.
Okay, I hear all that. And then I'm gonna ask this follow-up. What about like the endowment fund, donations? I mean, I know I was a part of fundraising for the you used to have some of the best galas. Like, man, it was an absolute blast. People flew in from all over the country. It was a great like what happens to all that money and what happens to current people that are donating and ongoing donations?
It's great, and here's the thing, it's a nonprofit. Part of our, revenue every year is fundraising. It'll never change, it'll continue the same way, whether we're in a building here, whether we're in a building at Xavier University, we always have to fundraise. That's part of what the board has to do. Um, we kinda got away from that for a while, and we kinda got sidetracked with a big project, and, are we gonna have another big gala? Who knows? We might have one. All the
Right.
money that has been gathered has been used and placed where it was supposed to go. The next steps, as far as any funds like our endowment care fund, our trust fund, it's still there. It's not going anywhere. Nobody buys that. Nobody gets it. It's our school, and if anything, we will add money to it through more donations as we make moves to online to support that for scholarships, everything else that we continue to do.
Is all this public information? Like, are the forms, what are they called? The 990s? Are those public forms that people can find online?
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan, all 990s are published publicly every year. They're all out there every year for every year prior. They can be
Okay.
found out there. Absolutely. They're all public information.
We got the finance questions out of the way. That was cool. Man, that one had me nervous. You guys handled that great. You mentioned going back home to Xavier. Mark, you talked about being at Xavier. Paul, you talked about being first class at CCMS, and even though Paul, you didn't lay a brick at CCMS, like you did buy a couple bricks, I would assume at CCMS, so that's good. You could
Yeah.
help pay
Yeah.
for some of that. Well, what is the history with CCMS and Xavier?
Yeah, our history with Xavier's fairly rich, and it's well beyond me. So let's go back about 50 years. We've been affiliated here on our own property for 30, right? That we are here now, and we came here in 1995. From 87 to 95, we were on Xavier's campus leasing space out of what was then the Cohen Center. So my classes and our lab and everything was housed inside the Cohen Center, which sits sort of near the Cintas Center, if you think about their university and if you Google it, right? So we were there in that time frame that I was there. We were on their campus. Prior to that, we were on Edgecliff campus, which was offsite in Walnut Hills, Victory Parkway, and that was also leased space from Xavier. So, over the past 50 years, 20 years prior to be here, we've had that relationship with Xavier for all the same reasons that we're going back to them to some degree, right? It's about the opportunity and the synergies of the missions. Uh, and they have that holistic mission that they see as part of the end of life thing, right? They have some incredible programs that they're launching, an osteopathic school of medicine and things of that nature. So, as they're adapting to their constituents and enrollees, so are we, and just becoming part of that robust thing. So, our history goes back many years, decades, if you will, in that capacity. So, it's a great partnership that, fair to say, they're as excited about as we are.
I mean, I do look at it as like, I mean, Paul, what you mentioned of if somebody's just enrolling in CCMS, you're getting a mortuary science degree, but being a part of a bigger university, your ability to not walk like your ability to walk out of there with a minor in something else or something that you're going to be able to carry into the workplace, like I think about that for death care in general, like that's a benefit. Like if you're hiring an incoming funeral director, but they also have a business minor or a marketing minor, like that's a weapon and an asset that can be used in employment. So I think that's insanely positive as well. All right, I'm gonna ask one more question and then I'm gonna rapid fire you guys. But the last question is this. Like what's the future of CCMS? Like where yes, you're going back to Xavier, but like does CCMS still is it still gonna be Cincinnati College of Mortuary Science? Like it is this just like now we just I mean CCMS has held a standard in death care for a long time. Do you now just become another mortuary college, a part of a state university, and that's that, or like, where do you go from here?
Ryan, where we're going to go from here is where we've been, and that's leading, right? We're the best. We're not afraid to say it. We're the oldest. We were the first. So that's my intent, right? And I intend to keep us on that pace. The future of CCMS lies in what we're doing here, and that is a take advantage of the opportunities when they arise. Make sure you're preparing the students best to come out entry into the field, you know, and it's the mission that we are that's going to do that. And going through Xavier and where our focus is, we're adapting. We're going online. Let's be honest. We're going to be stable. We're fine. We're going to be good into the future when we're doing what we're doing. But the future of CCMS is that online robust program. Meeting our students where they are and when they need that education. That's what we're going to do. We need to provide the community a well-rounded individual, not just with our hospitality program, cremation program, pet loss, right? We need to continue to evolve these things as our profession demands a different professional. We need to adjust and put out that professional and having those different avenues and doing that. So our future lies in expanding these things that we've seeded, including the educational mission through cremation, right? It's not going away. We're going to continue to do that. We're going to get affiliate partners and just do it in that different way. Um, Not only locally, but with all of our remote students. We have one of the best robust alumni bases state-wise of any institution out there, right? So bringing that all home and providing our seated students that same opportunity is where our future lies.
Great answer. Okay. All right. You ready for rapid fire? We call this the
I guess.
AK-47. Um, okay. Here goes. Number one, what happens to the ECC? Like this was a big build.
Yeah. So the big part of that is the equipment side. So we were blessed. I actually worked with facultative many years ago, and we announced this. And if you go pull up the old documents, you can find it. That equipment is actually not owned by CCMS. Facultative basically set up a loan program. We have an agreement in place that allows us the use of that equipment on our site. So we are already talking to FT to see hey, faculty, what is the next journey with you? And we'll find something, but that's their equipment. Ultimately, they will decide. But I know we'll continue to have a long-standing relationship and ECC program with them.
Great. Okay, that's good. And there was also a crematory machine, an alkaline hydrolysis machine that were a part of the ECC. Where do those
Yep.
go?
Yep.
Those go to
Yeah, we're
Xavier High
working.
School.
Well, sorry to cut there, but no, in the same capacity that we're working with FT, we are working with some pet partners because in Ohio, we can't use that for people, so to speak, and it is a pet machine that's Pet AH. So we're in the process of getting that relocated and continue to utilize that equipment as best we can.
Here goes. Next one. How is online or hybrid learning part of the future plan? I think you kind of answered this one, but like, we'll go back to it. Like, how do you how do you survive with online and how do you get a mortuary science degree online? That is my question. Like, how do you embalm a body through a computer screen?
Well, Ryan, we haven't quite figured that part out yet, and when we do, that'll be something else, right? Um, the way it works now, and the online program is a major component of our future. Let's be honest, that educational outsourcing and that way of delivering it. But how we do that is through our affiliate proctored funeral home partners, right? So
Okay.
every online student that isn't in Cincinnati seated like we were, so to speak, is going to take those asynchronous classes online at their pace. But what each of those students has is close to their community or where they are. They have a funeral home in which they're gaining that real world experience, right? That's what we're also bringing to our seated students with our local affiliate funeral homes. We've had a handful of funeral homes step up here locally to get that same experience. That real world embalming is important, right? So that online experience, how do you become an online director? Well, you got to know the information to get through your MBE. You got to pass your individual state requirements, but that practical experience, like I said, we're a trade by and large, right? We do what we do by doing what we do, and we get good at it that way. And that's done through our affiliate funeral homes. So in that, I feel we give out the best entry level professional because of that experience.
So, how does this affect current students? Like, is there disruption to the current students that are enrolled at CCMS?
Any change is disruptive, Ryan. Let's be honest, right? So the majority of our students that are here right now are going to complete their program with us in this building, one cohort. The other cohort will see very little because it'll be the tail end of theirs. The fall entry class that we have coming in would much be like Paul. That's going to be one program that will see very little of this. This transition and this thing that we're doing with Xavier is not a day one thing. We're not leaving here and showing up there the next day. This is a transition. This is going to take place over the course of the next 10 months to a year, where we're finishing out on this property and relocating to that property. There's nothing abrupt with it. There's nothing meant to be catastrophically disruptive, but change for some. Some will never see this great place we called CCMS on the top of the hill. Others will experience a little bit of both.
How does admissions change?
They don't. We are, like I said, we didn't sell. We are still our own institution. All of our own admissions requirements, all of our own processing. I mean, I have to take everything with us over there, right? I got to take our own registrar. I got to take our own financial aid, our admissions people. I get to take those all with us. I don't have to lose anybody, Ryan. I get to keep it all. So no, our admission requirements, standards, all that stuff remains CCMS, not Xavier University, right? We are separate. We are two separate entities, and essentially we are partnering on space. We are partnering on environment, right? All the other things are future related, including advanced degrees and all these other things that we teased in here. Um, right now, we are standalone institution working on a space, and if not just leasing space, is another way you might want to say that.
What level of transparency should stakeholders expect through this process?
You know, one of the things, I'll go back to when I started as interim president. If anything, we as a board have tried to make sure that transparency has just been complete, to a level that everybody knows everything, and that's why we're doing this right now. The issue, when I know some people are like, "Well, you didn't say anything ahead of time, and, we should have all known." Look, it's a big business deal. This isn't us in a vacuum working. As much as we may have wanted to say things, there are places like St. Xavier and Xavier University, literally with NDAs as we're negotiating this, saying, "You can't tell anybody about this." So, transparency when it's allowed is 100%. I mean, we're not holding anything back. We want people to know what's going on. We want to share. We're limited at some points of what we can and can't say, but anything we can share, we're more than willing to share. It's, we already said, we're a nonprofit. You can go online and find out everything we do. The purchase price is published in the local newspaper. Everything's out there. It's all good. But sometimes, I know we live in a society, people are quick to jump. You read the
Yeah.
headline and think, "Oh man, they sold, it's bad. They're going out of business." No, that's not anywhere in the headline, but we make up our own stories.
Well,
Ryan,
I'm
I
going
would
to
encourage
applaud.
folks to.
Go. Yeah, go
No,
ahead,
I'm
Mark.
sorry. I would
Sorry.
I would encourage folks to come talk to me. I'll be at convention, right? Let's have the conversations. There's a lot of questions, and I appreciate the time to answer these ones here. But no, absolutely.
Well, it's been fun, and I applaud you guys for the transparency. Like it's funny to listen to that question of how transparent are you going to be, because I think this is very transparent. In fact, when we talked about this, it was like, hey, did you see the release? Yes, good. Let's do a full interview. Ask people what they want. Like let people submit questions, and let's just go through it and answer it. And that's like exactly what we did. Every one of these questions was something that came through Facebook. No gotcha stuff, but like these aren't easy questions to answer. And so here's what I hear, and I could be way off base. I hear that CCMS continues to operate as CCMS. The building may be a little bit different, but the people are the same. The education is the same. The quality is the same. Nothing changes when it comes to admissions or anything like that. The endowment fund is still there. Donors can still donate. It's still a nonprofit. Paul doesn't get a jet, and like what I guess nothing. I don't know. It seems to me like nothing really changed other than like the address might be a little bit different.
Yeah, I'll say the only piece in there that we want to try to highlight is the future is so much brighter right now.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because we're putting the school, the institution of CCMS in a position where it can really succeed. Because again, a lot of institutions are having trouble. I mean, and it's not like it's tomorrow. It's not like it's in 3 or 5 years, but schools that aren't planning ahead right now with a big plan, they're gonna have problems. It's any school. So, being in the position we are, it's a blessing. Mark's done a great job leading this institution in a short amount of time to get it in a place that, again, honestly, we figured it might be 10 years before we could do something like this. So, it's dynamic, it's amazing.
It's great. It's great. I mean, CCMS is the staple. It's the first, the oldest, the best, the all the things. And I think that like when we look at great leadership and we look at companies that evolve, they lead the pack. And I really think like this is it. You've mentioned it. Like we have more online students. I have a senior in high school that has zero high school classes right now and is doing everything college online. I mean, it's pretty wild. And so to think that like it's neat to see something like this in with a staple mortuary school, adapting to the changing workflow, the changing environment of college students. I think we can be more adaptable now to incoming students, as well. I don't know. Gosh, Paul, I think you took me on my first tour of CCMS probably 11 or 12 years ago, probably longer than that. And I asked the question of like, okay, so if you're an incoming freshman or you're coming mortuary school, where do you live? And so
Yeah.
like, I know that's such a small detail that Mark, you mentioned about just having the resources of Xavier University now. Like, I'm like, oh, like in my brain, I'm in that mode right now, like renting condos and looking at freshmen. My daughter's going to TCU. It's like, what do you do? Where do you live? And like you just those little tiny small details, like I don't think we think of those things from a global perspective. It's just like, nope, this is CCMS and this is how CCMS is supposed to be. And so I just applaud the foresight to be able to go, hey, we can make this change 7 years from now when we're absolutely forced to, or we can like see where this is going and make an educated decision and evolve to serve an ever-changing workforce. And so I applaud you both. Thanks for coming on and being transparent and really spelling it out, because man, there was a big uproar and there were a lot of questions. And so I'm glad you answered them all.
Appreciate the time.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. I don't think I could have said it better myself. Thank you.
Yeah, well
All
said.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. We'll see you
Thanks,
next
Ryan.
time.
Right on.